Get started. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is located on the wall outside of the chamber. It is also on our website. There is also an automatic external defibrillator on the back wall of the legislative chambers. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We will begin with the Douglas County Board of Equalization. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Boyle? Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh? Here. Commissioner Friend?
Here.
Commissioner Garcia? Here. Commissioner Morgan? Here. Commissioner Rogers? Here. Madam Chair.
Present. Item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Equalization meeting held Tuesday, April 4th, 2023. And item B, call for a meeting and set Tuesday, April 25th, 2023 as the date for hearing on certified assessment corrections reflecting the addition of omitted property to the tax rolls or increased value on property. Is there a motion to approve A and B?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Commissioner Kavanaugh. Motion passes 7-0.
Citizen comments. Is there anyone wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda?
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue. Good morning.
Good morning.
I want to follow up on a comment I had about the purchase and sale agreements for private properties. My friend had an issue on getting good terms for an agreement, and I did some research over at the law library. I found a template for that. It was a short and a long form agreement. It was only a paper form, and I think that there's a whole bunch of websites, and those kind of things should be available digitally. The law library people said they didn't have a digital agreement, and if you have a location for something like that, if you have people that come up to you with these issues, which I'm sure the commissioners do, you can direct them to the law library or the website. I think the website's a better place for digital forms. You need to support the law library more so that have the documents in digital form. That I wanted to let you know because I think it's all kind of wrapping up. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak to the Board of Equalization about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we'll move to resolutions D through I. Is there a motion to approve?
Good morning, Commissioners.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, good morning.
Good morning. Mike Goodwillie, Douglas County Assessor Register of Deeds Office. I wanted to specifically address item D, the two exemption denials, the recommended denials. And the reason is I know there's a representative from one of them, Regency Homes Association, that would like to speak today. I don't know if there's another one, but I got a call this morning from Teresa Urick saying there had been some questions about this item in particular, so I thought I'd clarify a bit. The first of these entities is the Chi Club, or Chi Club. I'm not sure how you pronounce that. It's a medical fraternity that bought the old Metz mansion, and they're seeking to exempt it as a dwelling house for med students. I will confess, somebody said to me the other day or this morning that I had vast years of experience, which was a kind way of saying that I'm old. But in becoming old and looking at this stuff over the years, I have never ever seen a case that was on all fours as this application is, with a case the Nebraska Supreme Court decided a number of years ago called Iota Benefit Association versus County of Douglas. Same case, same issue, medical fraternity seeking an exemption. The Supreme Court turned them down for a couple of reasons. First, there really weren't classes going on there. It really wasn't educational in nature. And second, it really wasn't charitable because it was run essentially for the benefit of the membership of the fraternity. To be charitable under Nebraska law, you have to be organized, and the property has to be used for the the benefit of the public, or the benefit of the public, or an indefinite number of persons. And this really was just benefiting the members of the medical fraternity. And so the Nebraska State Supreme Court turned them down then. That case has never been overruled. It's still good law. And so we're recommending that that application be denied on that basis. The second situation is the Regency Homes Association, and they are seeking to exempt the recreational facilities, clubhouse, pool, and tennis courts, for the Regency subdivision. And essentially, this is the second time they've been here. A couple of years ago, they applied, and we recommended a denial. Subsequently, they've worked on their bylaws a little bit, and they've created a special member class. And apparently, you can become a special member and use the facilities out there. I think it's a $500 fee. I was talking to Mr. Walker, the representative, and he said they've got.
Just a second. Could those on Zoom please mute? Thank you, Karen.
And they've got about 100 of these special members, which raises their total number of members to about 600. The reason we are recommending denial is, in the end, it's still a members-only facility. The organization, in its articles of incorporation, seems to be operated for the benefit of the membership. You can only use the facilities if you are a member, and although there is a vehicle to become a special member for $500, we just don't think it reaches the level of benefit to the public that a charitable entity or a charitable use ought to. And with that, I'll get out of the way because I'm sure Mr. Walker wants to address you.
Okay, thank you. Good morning.
Good morning, John Walker, appearing on behalf of the Regency HOA. For the record, it was me that commented on Mr. Goodwilly's vast years of experience. I stand by that comment just so that the record is clear. Thanks for your time. I'll try to be brief. Mr. Goodwilly was largely correct in his recitation of the history here. We did apply probably 4 or 5 years ago. It was denied. Mr. Goodwilly had pointed out some issues with our corporate documents. So we went through the process. We amended them. So there is a category of special members that have all the same rights as a regular member to the property in question. There's about 120 special members. That's been pretty constant the last couple of years. I think it's $450. It might be $500 this year. We did the last 2 years track the usage of the pool, tennis courts, and clubhouse. And even though the special members only make up 120 out of maybe 600 total members, they are using the pool at a frequency about equal to, if not exceeding, those of the regular members. Just so we're clear, it's not just a pool and tennis club. The clubhouse is used for things like book clubs, speakers, presentations, weddings, things like that, which are, the bingo. We had bingo last week. Those are open to the special members as well. So I think we meet the 5-part test, right? The only question is whether it's used for the public or an indefinite number of people. We've never turned anyone away from being a special member. And the fact that there's a fee doesn't somehow make it non-charitable. Obviously, having a pool, there's operating costs. We're not profiting from this. We are a nonprofit. All of that money goes back into maintaining the grounds, the property, the pool, paying the lifeguards, et cetera. So I think under the 5-part test, we really check all the boxes. So I'm happy to answer any questions. I'd respectfully request that you carve out the Regency HOA and vote to approve its exemption request.
All right, thank you. Are there any questions? Commissioner Garcia?
Yeah, could you remind me or clarify for me, are you a 501c3 nonprofit?
I believe we are a 501c3, that's correct.
Okay, and what do you, Mr. Goodwillie has a comment on that?
Well, Commissioner, I don't know one way or the other. I have a little bit of working knowledge of 501c3s and the rest of the 501c menagerie. 501c3s are charitable, religious, etc. Often organizations will provide us a copy of a 501c3 exemption letter if they have one. We've never gotten one here. My suspicion is it's more likely to be a C7, which is a club for pleasure or recreation. But
Might be right.
but yeah.
So, are you
So I guess the answer is we've never gotten anything to tell us that, but I suspect that may not be quite the case.
yeah, so, Mr.
My-
Walker, are you for sure a C3 or might you be a C7?
We could be a C7. My recollection is with the paperwork that we provided, I think it's in our corporate formation documents. It does in fact indicate that we are a nonprofit. Whether it's a C3, C7, could be probably not a C8, but
Yeah, there's, even though they're all termed nonprofits, there are substantial differences
sure.
between them, of course. C3 being the one that typically is the one that is charitable, actually has a mission for community work in some way, somehow, whereas C7s and others, like, could be fraternal organizations, could be business associations, and those actually do not qualify for, to provide donors deductions, for example, because they don't quite meet that threshold of being charitable to the community. So that's why I'm curious as to your incorporation.
To your point, if I may, I think the pertinent inquiry under Nebraska law is whether we qualify, we fit that definition of charitable, right? So we operated solely for the physical, social, mental welfare of the public or an indefinite number of people. And again, it's a tennis court, a pool, a clubhouse that are used for physical, mental, and the health of the members and special members. So I think we meet that test regardless of whether we're a 501c3, which I've been before this board before, and the comment at the time was, well, that's not determinative whether you're a 501c8 or a C3, and I agree with that. Point being, under the Nebraska test, we satisfy it whether we're a C3, C7, or something else.
Which leads me to a question that I have for our legal counsel, Teresa. Would a C3 typically qualify for exemption by default if they are a C3 or any other nonprofit status?
There we go, sorry. Teresa York County Attorney's Office. I don't know that the two are necessarily synonymous. I think it's more likely that a 501c3 would qualify, and I think you typically do see that. But they still have to meet the statutory definition as it relates to the property, the real property exemption. And that requires, we've just touched on it a little bit, and I know Mr. Goodwillie emphasized it, they have to provide a benefit to the public or an indefinite number of persons under the Nebraska statute. And I think that's the concern that the assessor has, and I would share that concern, is there appears to be a finite group of people that are benefiting, not an indefinite number of persons.
If I might add one other thing, Commissioner Garcia, Mr. Walker's right on this score, and that is our Supreme Court has said on a number of occasions that holding a tax exemption certificate from the Internal Revenue Service is not dispositive. That said, holding a C3 certificate is a nice surrogate for whether somebody's organized for religious or charitable purposes. But there are, they aren't, if it were a Venn diagram, they aren't necessarily right on top of each other, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
If I can make one more point. There is a case from the Nebraska Supreme Court that said when the Nebraska State Bar asked for an exemption, the Supreme Court said, no, that's not an indefinite number of people because you have to be a lawyer. Here, anyone could apply, and again, we've never declined anybody. So I think it is an indefinite number of people. The fact that we've only had 120 doesn't take us out of that category.
Yeah, I have a couple more questions, but I'm going to defer to my colleague because my time's almost out. And I'll come back.
Thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. Mr. Goodwillie, maybe you could join us to answer a couple questions. I'm a little bit familiar because during my college days, I lived in this neighborhood. This is a frat house, isn't it?
Pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. In the exhibits.
Going back to the Chai Club, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I've been there. It's a medical school frat house, right?
Yes.
Right. So in the documents that you.
Jim, he's not representing the Chai Club, though.
No, I understand.
Okay.
I'm just trying to clarify. There are 3 in the documents here, and I think this comes from your office. 3 organizations listed. The Chai Club, which is this frat.
Well, 2 parcels for the Chai Club, 1 for Regency Homes.
Yeah. What's the connection between this fraternity and the Regency Home?
None. They're just all on the same agenda. I mean, they're all recommended denials.
I see. And this gentleman you represent?
Only the Regency HOA.
I see. Okay. So in the listing here, all 3 are notes that say not used for religious, charitable, educational, or cemetery purposes. And in the case of the Regency Homeowners Association, in addition to those, not used for religious, charitable, education, or cemetery purposes is restated. I don't know why. But those are the criteria, aren't they, that you apply for this exemption under?
5-part test. Religious, educational, charity, or cemetery organization.
Right.
Used exclusively, meaning predominantly for one or more of those purposes.
Yeah.
No gain or profit to the owner or the user. You can't discriminate based on race or ethnicity or so forth, and you can't serve alcohol more than 20 hours a week.
Okay. Have any of these been tax exempt going back?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay. And what are the tax implications, and as long as we have Regency here, what's your tax bill now?
I believe it's somewhere around $20,000 a year.
Okay.
Don't quote me on that, plus or minus.
I hear you. Is this that Regency Tennis Club, you know, they have the clubhouse?
Yeah, right off of Regency Parkway between Dodge and Pacific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's the campus where that.
Correct.
And you can rent out that clubhouse for social
Correct. Anyone in the public could rent it out. You don't have to be a special member to rent it out.
Okay. And that's the campus that you're trying to get the exemption for?
Correct. I think it's something like 5 acres, 7 acres, something like that.
Right. But it's not organized for religious, charitable, educational, or cemetery purposes at all?
I would disagree with that. I would say that it is organized for a charitable purpose, being the mental, social, physical benefit of the public. That's what it is. You go there for exercise, for community, so I think it satisfies that.
No, I understand. It's just that I've been to so many non-charitable events there. I've actually hosted them because you'll rent it to anybody.
Sure. Just like you can go to the Fireman's Hall, right?
Right. So why, after all these years, are you coming to us for a tax exemption?
Two reasons. First, of course, that's not actually a part of the analysis that we conduct, right? Why haven't you done it before? I got on the board 4 or 5 years ago, and the first thing I did was say, hey, I think we qualify for this. So as soon as I got on the board, I did it. And then Mr. Goodwillie pointed out some issues, went through a very tedious process of amending them, taking it to a vote, getting them filed. So here I am again. I wanted to check all those boxes. I was hoping Mr. Goodwillie would say, well, thanks, John. You really did a nice job there. But all those years of experience didn't get me very far, I guess.
I didn't say you didn't do a nice job. I think you're always going to be.
Okay. So do you represent them? Are they a client of yours?
Technically, I'm here as president of the HOA.
Okay. So are you an attorney?
I am an attorney. If I have to appeal, I will represent them on appeal to Turk.
I see. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Garcia,
You can let Frank go if you want.
Commissioner Friend.
Oh, he deferred to age.
Exactly.
I thought it was beauty.
Gentlemen, I don't even know if I have a comment for that. Gentlemen, I I guess what I'm trying to get my hands around at this very moment, and this was on consent calendar, when Mr. Goodwillie gets up, this is what happens. So what I'm trying to do is get my hands around the idea of consistency. And the reason that I'm trying to get my hands around the idea of consistency is because we as a county board, and I can't speak for all the members, but my guess would be what we don't want to do is set precedent on this county board that's going to open up indiscriminate opportunities for HOAs all over the county, and then give opportunities, and I don't care as much about it, for Sarpy County or Cass County or anybody else to say, look what Douglas County did. Next thing you know, you got a bunch of attorneys in court trying to fight over whether that precedent was correct or not. My question then, therefore, is that when I'm looking at specifically Regencies, how, and the question is for either of you, and you can debate about it offline if you'd like, how much statutory guideline and how much case law is out there that is consistent with what Regency is trying to do right now? So in other words, if my HOA up in Bennington decides, look, the floodgates are open, they're open, because we have one of these too. My question is, what occurs next? And I know we don't have a crystal ball, but what occurs next? Is it a lawsuit?
So valid concern, right? The slippery slope of if we do this, who's next? I would say that approving it, I suppose, there could be an appeal if you approve it. There will certainly be an appeal if you don't. So you're going to have a Supreme Court opinion for sure if you deny it, and that's going to be out there. Maybe your denial is correct, and maybe it's not. I don't know how many HOAs have 7 acres of property. My suspicion is not many. So the cost benefit for HOAs that might have, I don't know, a little park of half an acre where your kids can play, is the juice worth the squeeze for all of those little HOAs to say, well, we're paying $700 for this park, so let's go get an exemption. I don't see that as a huge risk. Not many people have a pool, a clubhouse, and a tennis court with, I don't know what it's assessed at, but if the taxes are 20 grand, like this is a substantial piece of property, right? I don't think a lot of HOAs have it, so I think the risk is minimal in light of that.
If I may, you asked about what's out there to guide us, and the answer is we're a small. In fact, John and I were talking about this. We're a small state. There's nothing out there that deals specifically with a homeowners association. So you have the general guidance the statute gives you about an organization organized for the exclusive benefit of the public or an indefinite number of persons. And there's some case law that's kind of hit and run about that. The Bar Association case talks about members, organizations. To some degree, this fraternity case talks a little bit about organizations operated for the benefit of the members rather than the public. But what I would leave you with is this, and do I know if the floodgates are going to open? Are we going to see homeowners associations? I don't know. Are we going to see other recreational entities create some sort of a special member class, and we're going to have Happy Hollow Country Club in here saying, yeah, we got special members, anybody can be a special member? I don't know if any of that's going to happen. And I stop it. And I tend to not want to make that sort of sky is falling domino theory argument. I think these things need to kind of rise and fall on their own merits. It's also why I don't usually ask about or talk about how much property value is out there, because I think that's a concern. That's a sidetrack. But what I will say is this organization, back to its Articles of Incorporation, talks about the purposes for which the corporation is organized are, in general, without any part of its net earnings inuring to the private benefit of its members, to promote and sustain their social welfare and otherwise provide for their health, pleasure, recreation, safety, and other non-profitable interests. Are there more members than there used to be due to this special membership class? Yeah, but it's still a members-only organization and facility, and I would leave you with that.
Okay. Gentlemen, thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Commissioner Garcia?
Just a few quick follow-ups. I do think that any entity that wants to truly be a charitable organization will file as a C3 specifically. We have actually representatives of the C3 here in the back, and, but any C3 has an intentional effort to outreach to communities that are struggling in some way, shape, or form, are lacking in resources in some way, shape, or form. And so it's not just a matter of technically having an open membership, right? Because like Planet Fitness has open membership. You can go sign up. Anybody can go sign up, right? Gold's Gym, Genesis Gym, and they could all claim to be for your good mental health. They can claim to be for your fitness and physical health. It doesn't make them a charitable organization. So with having in mind the intentional outreach that a charitable organization typically would have to those who are struggling in some way, shape, or form, how many of your members currently meets, let's say, the threshold of being in poverty?
Yeah, I don't have those statistics. Obviously, we're different than a for-profit gym, right, where somebody owns it and the profit goes to the owner. We don't have that, right? I think we're closer to the Scottish Rite case from 1932 that Mr. Goodwillie and I were discussing prior to this, where that's a member-based organization and the Supreme Court gave them an exemption. We're really no different. We have the same type of facilities, the same type of ideas. So the fact that, I don't have the statistics of how many of our 120 members are impoverished, I can't give that to you. Just like I don't think, a lot of other organizations can't give you that statistic. The question is whether we meet the 5-part test. And really the sub-question here is whether or not it's open to the public or an indefinite number of people. And we are. Any one of you could apply and we would accept you, right? Anyone in Omaha could apply. At some point, the fire marshal would say, well, you can't have 8,000 people at your pool, but as a practical matter, it's open.
Do you think the average charitable organization that truly is charitable, the clients that they serve are likely to be able to pay $500 to join your club?
I would be speculating to ask, right? We have, again, that's the minimum we need to fill the pool with water, keep it clean, pay the lifeguards. Those are our costs, right? They cover our costs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Insurance, everything else.
Sure. Well, as somebody who has worked in 18 years in nonprofit, C3 specifically, it's an area I'm familiar with, and I definitely have reservations about this.
Understood.
Commissioner Kavanaugh?
And John, maybe this is, you brought this up, I'm interested in this. You mentioned maybe Happy Hollow Country Club could claim under the same rubric. Currently, somebody like Happy Hollow Country Club or Omaha Country Club, are they on the tax rolls?
Sure.
Okay.
Now, there are some caveats. I mean, obviously, they'd have to be organized as a not-for-profit, and they'd have to meet the other tests. But assuming you're another 501c7 and you've got some sort of a membership class, I think you can make the same argument.
Yeah, and I don't know what their corporate filings say, if they are a 501 anything. But it strikes me that the services provided by the Regency organization, the services provided by these country club organizations are similar. And I was just looking to you to see if they are similarly treated currently under our tax code, the Regency organization and, say, the Happy Hollow Country Club organization.
We've never gotten an exemption application from Happy Hollow or OCC or any of those kinds of places, and they're on the tax rolls.
So they pay property tax.
They do.
I guess, one question I'd have, Mr. Walker, is how would you distinguish yourself from, say, a country club? You provide many of the same services.
Because the property's not owned by a charity. It's not used exclusively for charitable purposes. It is owned for financial gain, a country club. And they sell alcohol for more than 20 hours a week. So we're polar opposites. Yeah, some on the surface, sure, some of the things may seem similar, but at the end of the day, there's no money going into anyone's pocket that owns the Regency HOA because nobody owns it.
So do you maintain that the Regency Homeowners Association itself is a charity?
Yes.
I see. And it was established when?
Oof. don't quote me on this, but it was way before I was born. How about that? Sometime
Right,
in
right. A friend of mine's dad was one of the developers, and it has to be
the
70s at
60s,
the
yeah,
latest.
70s, long time ago.
Right. So the Regency Homeowners Association, 50-plus years, has been established under the same legal organization that you're applying under, and for the 50-some years has always paid property taxes.
And we're happy to not ask for that to be paid back.
I'm sorry?
You're right. We have been operating as we have for 50 years. Again, I got on the board 4 or 5 years ago. That's all I can speak to.
Right, right. And you're a Regency resident.
I am a Regency resident.
The overwhelming number of members of this homeowners association are Regency residents, are they not?
Correct. However, the majority of the usage of the pool is for the special members.
So if I wanted to go and swim in the pool, how would I do that, just as a private citizen?
You would pay the $450, $500 fee, and you've got a year membership.
I couldn't just go out and have a day at the pool and pay an entry fee?
No.
But I could go out and rent the clubhouse for a social event,
You could.
and that social event would serve alcohol.
You would have to have your own. The Regency HOA does not serve the alcohol. We do not have our own liquor license, so you would have to coordinate that on your own. I can tell you it's rented out at most twice a week. Not all of those serving booze. That's never been an issue whether or not we're serving alcohol over 20 hours a week. The pool itself, the tennis courts, the clubhouse do not serve
1 minute.
alcohol.
Thank you.
And to clarify, Commissioner Kavanaugh, an original Articles of Incorporation for Regency Homes Association was filed with the Secretary of State in 1968.
69?
68, I'm sorry.
Oh, thanks.
Okay. Commissioner Rogers?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I guess one of my questions Commissioner Kavanaugh asked, because you're classifying yourself as a wellness kind of organization, membership class. You know, you almost, I don't know, I'm just saying from another example, you're almost like a Y. You position yourself. So a Y, I can go into a Y and buy a one-day membership and get in. If I go to the Y, I can get a senior discount, which technically I'm over 50, so I'm an AARP member. And technically, if I'm a 501c3, I'd have fundraising drives and offer scholarship, because to Commissioner Garcia's point, I know a lot of people would like to go out there, but they can't afford the $500. So I'm just curious, are any of those options available?
Yeah, we do have like a Christmas market where vendors come and they pay $20. That goes to the HOA to fund its operations. We offer early morning swim for the seniors. I'm not a senior, but I've gone there before at 6:30 in the morning. There's water aerobics or water whatever at 7 in the morning in the summer. So we offer things like that. They're there.
So if I come out there in a year, I can see the fully developed plan for access, the spirit of access, true access, meaning discount rates, one-day rates.
I don't know from a bookkeeping administrative perspective, we could do one-day rates. I don't have any problem with a senior discount. I think that's a great idea, actually. But administratively, having a one-day admission, I don't think, like with our life, you have to have so many lifeguards with so many people, so we know we have to have an idea of,
Okay.
you know, how many people could show up on a given day for safety and staffing purposes.
Okay. No, that's fine. I just need to entertain that line of questioning. I'm just curious.
Understood. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Friend?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Goodwillie, can I ask you a question? And it might not be that pertinent, but I hope it is. Let's say the Keystone Club, folks, let's say Maple Village came in and they asked, do they pay? They're not 501c3s, right? I mean, off the top of your head. You're talking about a couple private pools. People pay a bond, and then they go in and pay monthly. dues to the
No,
pool.
those are taxable.
And again, this is the part that may not be that pertinent. This was the point that I was making from the very outset. If we start carving out opportunities for organizations that have the opportunity to receive tax exemption that haven't had it before, why would the Keystone Pool and Maple Village Country Club not come in and say, look, there are some consistencies here. We want those tax exemptions too. So that's where my fear lies, right?
If I may.
Yeah.
I think it would be something that they would have to weigh against what becoming more public might do to the usage of the pool for the members. And the only reason I raise this question is, I think I got a call sometime years ago from one of the private pools in town. I want to say it was like Brookstone, maybe. That may not be the name. But we explored that a little bit, and they really weren't interested in pursuing it when it sounded like they'd have to let more people into their pool, right? I mean, part of why you're paying for this membership is to have better access to the pool than you might in a public facility. So, you know, I can't answer that question, but I certainly would imagine they would explore that possibility.
Okay, gentlemen, again, thank you both. Thank you, Madam Chair.
All right, no other lights? Yes, go ahead.
Luis Jimenez, 2709 Dewey Avenue.
About this item,
Yeah, about Regency.
yes.
Yeah, not the other items that what's been commented on. I'm trying to formulate my own opinion on this, and I wouldn't make an opinion on this without seeing their budget, like their year-to-year budgets for Regency. One of the main components to a nonprofit is funding, income coming in, and then the expenses going out. So that's how you're a nonprofit, that you don't have a balance that could be considered a profit. So if you're operating at $250,000 and you only spend $200,000, $50,000 of that is considered profit, and you have to use that as as part of your operating expense. Another big component is that the money is not inured by the board members or office holders of the organization. So they're not, people that are making decisions are not making a lot of money off of the operations of the organization. I want to agree with the applicant that this is, they do charitable work because they are operating a health club in a residential area that's surrounded by commercial zoning, residential zoning. I think that's a benefit to the neighborhood. A general definition for charitable is combating community deterioration. Another thing is advancement of education or science, erecting or maintaining of public buildings, monuments, or works. So nonprofits can service all kinds of people. It doesn't just have to be low-income individuals. The main component is that the organization is not running a profit year to year. If that's the case with them, I would consider them a nonprofit. I wouldn't need necessarily a 501c3, as long as their articles of incorporation say that they are a Nebraska public benefit corporation. If that's the case and they're not running a profit year to year, I'd consider them charitable. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Larry Store, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha, 68132. I dozed off a little bit, but I think we're still on Board of Equalization, are we not?
We're on the one item, for
Item, was
Regents.
that item D?
Yes,
Okay,
on the Regency part of item D.
yeah. Okay. The word nonprofits. Nonprofits are not totally nonprofit. There's somebody in that organization that draws an awful lot of money out of that nonprofit tax-free, and a lot of those expenses and things. Now, he gets to ask questions of you, so I'm going to ask some questions. You don't reply, that's in the rules. But when the real estate prices tank, why do not my assessments tank and values tank along with it? I've never seen my property tax equalize downward with the trend of the market price of housing. I'd like to see that changed, where you find a different way of valuing properties and leave nonprofits out of it, tax them for their stuff, let them pay their way. We don't need to pay their salaries and their expenses. We need to take care of the citizens, not give them money to take care of the citizens for us. Now, I want to say something you might call me out of order for, but I believe, Dan, I've given you a copy of a page out of the Reader magazine. They are a part of a nonprofit alternative news organization. I'm drafting an email about that now. I will present that evidence next week.
Okay,
But I
that's
am
not-
going to
you are out of
suggest,
order,
okay,
Larry.
I'm going to suggest that the gentleman before me is part of this
Okay.
nonprofit news organization
Larry, you're out of order now.
that is going to hold you all responsible.
Larry,
They say so in their writing.
okay, thank you, Larry.
I can tell from the way he follows you around and the questions he
Larry,
asks.
you're out of order now.
He's not a typical citizen.
Larry, thank you.
He's a reporter.
Larry, please.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak on this issue? There is a motion and a second for the items of resolution, items A through I. We do not have need for an executive session, so if the maker of the motion and the seconder agree to adjournment, I would add that into the motion. Okay. No further questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
All right, thank you for being here. I'm going to move things around a little bit and go to our Board of Commissioners meeting. So could I have a roll call for that, please?
Commissioner Boyle. Here. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Here. Commissioner Friend.
Here.
Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan. Commissioner Rogers. Madam Chair.
Present. And before we get into the actual agenda, I do want to welcome our guests that are here. We're sorry that we didn't have a little time beforehand because your bus was running late. But what you just witnessed was what's called the Board of Equalization, and we as the 7 commissioners sit as the Board of Equalization. And those items that we discussed, every week we sit as that board, and there's various items that come before us as we sit as that board. Now we're into our Board of Commissioners meeting, and this is again what we do on a weekly basis, but we have our actual Board of Commissioner hats on. And so what I would like, and I gotta tell you, I'll have Val come forward to talk about the program for a minute. And then what we'll do is we'll have you line up and then come and introduce yourselves and tell us what area of interest that you're working in or studying in or just have an interest in. Okay? Val?
Val McPherson, 6415 Glenwood Road, Omaha, Nebraska. And no, I am not representing the Fair Acres Homeowners Association. I am, however, representing the University of Nebraska at Omaha, and I would like to thank the board for once again helping us host a very distinguished group of young leaders from Southeast Asia. This is part of the Waisili program, Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative. This is a grant that UNO applied to the State Department for in 2014. We received it in 2015, and we started by hosting one delegation from Southeast Asia. That has grown to 2 delegations per year. That has grown to the University of Nebraska now overseeing the Waisili program at 2 other universities, Arizona State University and Portland State University. It has now grown to include another program called BOLD, which is similar, but is from East Europe. Initially, that was a delegation from Bosnia-Herzegovina. That has now grown as of this summer to hosting a delegation from not only Bosnia-Herzegovina, but from Montenegro and from Serbia. So this is a program that has grown immensely since UNO received that first grant. This is, as I said, an extremely distinguished group of leaders. They have already shown incredible leadership, and they've already shown the potential to continue to be leaders. I think that if you've looked at their bios or when you hear them talk about what they have done and what they plan to do, you'll be extremely impressed. One of the things that they work on while they're here is an action plan so that when they return to their countries in Southeast Asia, they have a plan in terms of how they can utilize what they have learned here to further their efforts as civic engagement leaders in their communities. While they're here, they also spend a half day at Gallup. Prior to coming, they have taken the Gallup Strengths Assessment, and while they're here, they receive an hour-and-a-half individual coaching session from a Gallup certified strengths coach. They visit several organizations and nonprofits while they're here, and fortunately, we are now back to the original 5-week schedule. The last group you hosted was the last of the 3-week makeup for the pandemic groups. I do want to add one other thing. This is very similar in terms of how they are recruited to the State Department's oldest diplomatic program. That is the International Visitor Leadership Program. That program started just before World War II and has brought thousands and thousands of world leaders to the United States. Over 1,000 of those leaders have now gone on to be either president or prime minister of their country. As I said, the recruiting process is extremely similar. So you may have before you a future prime minister or president of one of the ASEAN Southeast Asian countries. It is my pleasure to let them introduce themselves as the future leaders of Southeast Asia. And once again, thank you for graciously accepting so many of the delegations in the past.
Thank you, Val. And if you'd like to line up, we will begin the introductions. And as you begin to line up, I just want to say if folks do have time to read their bios, not only do we see the impressiveness of the young people, but a lot of individuals have overcome a lot of adversity and trauma in their lives to, again, not take them down, but to build them up. And it's very, very impressive. And so with that, I welcome all of you again on behalf of the board, and we're anxious to hear from you. So go ahead.
All right. Thank you. Good morning, commissioners. My name is Kitipop Muntarwa. I'm from Thailand. I used to work as a foreign relations officer at the Ministry of Interior in Thailand. I worked, my work back then concerns the border relations between the neighboring countries of Thailand. And now I will begin my new career at the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in next month. And my area of interest still concern the public participation in the border management, and I hope to learn from the American society and context, and would like to apply that to my project and work back in Thailand. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here. I'm Marciano Lopez Jamecas from Timor-Leste. I'm a youth ambassador of my country, and I am a first-year student majoring in law. And I always passionate and interested about human rights for marginalized group in my country, because human rights is problem now in my country. And I'm here, and I've been doing a lot of projects to create equitable opportunity for marginalized communities in my country. And I'm here to learn more about what is human rights and what I can do as a young generation to contribute to peace and equitable life for marginalized group in my country. Thank you very much.
Great. Thank you. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. My name is Taram Chantawong. I'm from Laos, and today I am very happy to be here. I am interested in civic engagement, the specific in youth empowerment and community development, and I learned a lot from here, Omaha, and United Nations, and I will apply the lessons that I have learned here to my country, especially in Laos. Thank you so much. Have a good day.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
My name is Maria Bless Adriano, and I am from the Philippines. I acquired my blindness in 2012. 3 years later, I was able to attend a local leadership training, which opened my idea and initiatives with regards to the advocacy for persons with disability. Currently, I'm working for a nonprofit organization which aims to create inclusive spaces for persons with disability. So, I am here. I joined the YCLI to learn more about how to make inclusive spaces, how to increase civic participation for youth with disability like me in the Philippines. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, everyone. My name is Agus Wandi. I'm from Indonesia. And 10 years later, I really believe that I can be Prime Minister of Education of Indonesia. And the reasons behind this is that I do volunteering since I was in elementary school up until now, from the rural areas to international scale. And then doing volunteering, I see myself in the role I was born to play. And moreover, I do believe that with held a brand new school called Mulia Academy, I can be perfect fit being a prime minister. And one that I always keep in mind is that if I can do a great things, I can do small things in a great way. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
A very good morning. This is Srainet Soy from a rural area in Cambodia. I am currently working as a legal and compliance officer at one insurance company in Cambodia. So why I am here for the civic engagement? I was the scholar of the Habsburg Foundations, a leadership dormitory founded by one US citizen. And through that opportunity, they left the door open for me. Coming from the rural area and in a conservative family, I guess most of us did not have access and opportunity to pursue higher education. But through the opportunity provided by the Habsburg Foundations, I have a chance to finish my bachelor degree in Phnom Penh. And I believe because of that opportunity, I can stand here so that I want to leave the door open for the next generation, especially women empowerment. So that's why while working in my professional career as a legal and compliance officer at the private company, I also want to leave the door open for other girls, especially in my community, to access to higher educations. And I believe through this opportunity and through what I have learned from this civic engagement as a Wisely Fellow, I am able to apply it to benefit other female generations in my community. Thank you.
Well, thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Hi everyone, good morning. I'm Adnan. I'm from Malaysia, and it's a really huge pleasure meeting each and every one of you. I speak for myself. It's the first time I'm in this particular setting, so it's really interesting to see how everyone conducts themselves and how the entire session went on. Essentially, my work centers around civic engagement, particularly in diversity and inclusion. And so back in my home country, Malaysia, I work with youths, specifically those in middle to high school youths. And some of the initiatives that I've done include working with at-risk youths. That means youths that are perhaps at risk of violence. I even conducted a survey on discrimination in schools because in my home country, unfortunately, discrimination, especially racial discrimination, is still a huge issue. And so it's really interesting being in Omaha, given its civic engagement and given its non-profit presence. It's extremely huge and extremely great. And so I've learned a lot throughout this trip, and I look forward to doing so much more in my home country. And again, pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, greetings and salutations, everybody. My name is Shashmita Nair. I'm from Malaysia, like Adnan, and I'm currently a university student at the University of Malaya. I'm a third-year law student. So, interfaculty, I'm involved with mooting. So, I've represented my university and country for Jessup, Nelson Mandela Moot Competition, and also Nuremberg. Outside of university, I'm involved with civic engagement programs. I particularly work with a organization called Project Anak Malaysia to reduce the education inequality in Malaysia. And I'm currently affiliated with Students for Liberty, which is a US-based organization to promote freedom of religion and speech. The aim and why I'm here today is because I want to learn about freedom of religion in America. And I know it's very, there is constraints, but at the same time, it's also very liberal and free. And that's something that I hope to implement back in Malaysia. As Adnan pointed out, freedom of religion in Malaysia is kind of a foreign concept at the moment. So coming here and seeing everything that's happening is definitely interesting. And also, it was such an honor to sit in this session because it was definitely different from how democracy works in Malaysia. Thank you and pleasure to meet you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I am Sathira Hieng from Cambodia. I am a fourth-year university student majoring in international relations. I also am a partnerships officer at an empowering youth organization. I am actually from a poor family who did not have a lot of support to continue to higher education. But fortunately, I got a scholarship from the organizations to continue to higher education. So I'm now very interested in education because I believe education is the key to open the door for your dreams. I was fortunate to got selected by the organization who offered me that scholarship to an exchange program to Ireland in 2019. That was I call it like a possibility and also the door for me that any dream is possible. And I stand here today as an example to hundreds of youths that look up to me, and I believe one day they can be here too. And I want to go back to my country and show them that nothing is impossible. So there is only like less possible and more possible, even at least 1% of possibility or less than 1%, you can still continue doing it, and one day you may achieve it. Thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. It's my honor to be here. My name is Huân Minh Trang. I'm from Vietnam, and I'm currently studying commercial law in my university, and I'm an entrepreneur in my country. My interesting is I want to learn the knowledge in the United States because this is the big opportunity for me to connect with the large communication like the United States. And I want to use my knowledge to combat my country's support for the women to help them independent in the economic, financial. Because I'm an entrepreneur, I know how the commercial impact for the women and how them can speak out their voice. And I came here to make my dream realize and use my experience come back my country to have the people in my community dream come true. Thank you so much.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. It is such a great honor to be here today. I am Nguyễn Hiền Thanh, a representative from Vietnam. I received my bachelor degree in English teaching in 2020. During my time at the college, I founded an English community which helped undergraduates at university to have a more engaging and stress-free environment. Through my continued work there, I gradually delved into community engagement, and I learned a lot about how to support the youth and how to empower them in terms of education. And I'm here today to take the initiative for my community as a leader and to acquire new knowledge as a learner and a teacher. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great privilege. It's such a great privilege to meet with you today and to be here. My name is Kinsani Jo. I'm from Myanmar. Second year. I'm an electronics engineering student. After second year of my study, I dropped out the university according to the current situations of Myanmar and civil war. During pandemic, I initiated a volunteering youth group in my town, gathering the youth to help the old people, especially the health of old people, such as to help in cases like measuring the blood temperatures and oxygen. So at the same time, I've been born in a small town. I felt obligated. I felt ever obligated to do something. When I see the youth who are losing hopes according to the current situations of Myanmar. So I went to. I'm still trying to continue my education abroad. At the same time, I want to accomplish a project which aims for youth empowerment. When I'm get back to in my country, I want to accomplish a project which aims for youth empowerment with the knowledge, experiences that I've learned here in the United States. So thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, commissioners. My name is William Mardulay Simanwaya. I'm from eastern of Indonesia. I'm from Indonesian country. I believe that after leaders of young South Asian leaders is a prominent factor that I should have to believe that. And I'm working for U.S. Department, U.S. Embassy, and a U.S. Consulate for American space, especially American Colonial of Baltimore University from my college for 7 years. I believe that they initiated programs for Eastern of Indonesians that we have less accessible and also disparities accessible informations that we believe that the initiated from U.S. Embassy and U.S. government very grateful for me and also my local communities because we got inclusive way to access and all educations and also accessible information that that we gather from any programs that from American Space and also American corner of our university. I want to thankful for U.S. government through the Nebraska government because my experience through American colonies, we got many access to be young leaders because I believe if we see our potential for ourselves and other leaders, there are mutual understanding and also collective purpose that we will as leaders can believe our purpose and our actions to answer the any social issues in our communities itself. So thank you so much for this place.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioner. Jung Han Vân from Vietnam. I'm currently a four-year student of Vietnam National University, Ho Chi Minh City, Against University. And well, my living time is to keep it simple and meaningful for the community, so I'm not gonna talk much. A little nervous, so sorry. So coming to Wasili this year, I'm trying to fulfill my duty and to push a strong relationship among Southeast Asian country and between U.S. nation and the Asian country. So, well, I prepare much, but I don't know how to say. So, well, that's all I can say. Okay,
No, that's
thank
very
you.
good. Thank you and welcome.
Yep.
Good morning.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Yuyun Ilantri. You can call me Yuyun. I'm from Indonesia. Being here is like a movie for me because it's always my biggest dream. Because as I know, like American has one of the best literacy in the world, and I'm studying English education, and I also work in a language and cultural for my civic engagement community, and I used to teach language culture for my children there. I call them children because I love them so much, and I used to teach them English cultural. We used to have a art festival every year, and then one thing that I want to show them children in my hometown is English is like a bridge to see the world. So you have to study English. You have to gather the information from every corner of the world using English. And because when I was a child, I have experience. I have to walk 40 minutes to get schools, and I don't want Indonesian children in the future to experience the same like me. So one of my biggest dream is I want to create one of my bilingual schools, but that is very affordable for everyone, because now in my hometown English is very expensive. No one can afford that. No underprivileged people is very expensive for them. So yeah, that's my dream, and I'm very lucky to be here. And then yeah, I'm happy. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Morning, my name is Sekar Kinasih from Indonesia. It's a great honor to be with you guys here. So, I was born in Sumatra Island. If you are coffee fans, Sumatra Islands is produce one of the best coffee in the world. And I'm currently majoring English literatures. I'm on my third year. And right now, currently, I'm focusing on women empowerment, especially to promoting the self-worth of women and also their ability to determine their own choices, and also how women should speak and stand for themselves and others. And I would like to say one quote that say, "Women are mother of civilizations. If women are damaged, then the civilization is damaged too." Thank you very much.
Thank you and welcome.
Good morning. It's an honor to be here. I'm Pat from the Philippines. So I'm an associate psychologist at a mental health tech company. I'm also working on my master's degree on clinical psychology. And before that, I was working on inclusive education for people with psychosocial disabilities. So I myself have a psychosocial disability. So this means a lot to me to be able to talk about these issues with you. I'm here because when I go back to the Philippines, I'd like to be able to pave the way for accessible mental health care services for people in rural communities. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm Chris from Thailand. I'm currently working as a police officer. My main focus is to end gender-based violence and make justice system accessible to those in need. Well, in police department in Thailand doesn't seem care about gender equality and domestic violence. So I want to really support gender equality and educate them about gender-based violence. And I also launched a project about gender equality in Thailand last year. And now I'm working on a new project about gender-based violence, which will launch in next 3 months. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I am Samuel C. Madriaga, a licensed occupational therapist, a young leader, an aspiring medical doctor, and aspiring future Secretary of the Department of Health in the Philippines. I'm standing here today because I am currently living in a community and a country where health is becoming a privilege rather than a basic human right. And I think we all share the similar belief that a healthy nation, a healthy citizens is what makes or is a primary building block in making our country more progressive and effective. So I currently stand here in front of you today to champion for public health systems that is equitable, sustainable, and effective for the people, particularly in building our health systems more effective and responsive to their needs, promoting impact-based, people-centered, and rights-based health policies, good governance, and youth empowerment, and also disability prevention and awareness. And I would like, and I'm really looking forward to having deep and meaningful conversations with you all, and how can you help us in making Philippines a healthier community for all Filipinos. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Minglaba, which means good morning in Myanmar. I'm Mo Point Kim from. I'm a law student from University of Yangon, representing the Republic of the Union of Myanmar. I work as students as a university student. I work in so many students organizations here, and especially I work how should I say education. I give clinical legal educations to high school students and stuff. So by doing that, I saw that there are a lot of sexual harassments and domestic violence in our country, like against especially for women and LGBTQ plus community. So my special interest here is I want to, despite of being like how should I say, despite of the country's following legislations and judiciary, I want to create a space for for the victims who has been a victim of sexual harassment and domestic violence. I want to create a space for them to open up comfortably, and also to give them knowledge and how should I say, for especially for the women, how can they get out of that situation. So I want to learn more about that. How can I do to for my community here. So it was very honored to meet you here, and I would yeah, thank you.
Thank you and welcome. Good morning.
Good morning, Commissioners. I'm Michelle from Singapore, a social work graduate from the National University of Singapore. My area of interest are working with the underprivileged to build self-sustaining communities. As during the pandemic quarantine, I realized that a lot of non-profit organizations have protocols to abide to. So it's more sustainable to work with the underprivileged to build self-sustaining communities. I'm also interested in parenting, as I realized that a lot of behaviors of youth at risk stems from childhood and a lack of good parenting skills. And lastly, I'm also interested in grief work, specifically working with the bereaved and dying. While I'm here in the United States, I hope to learn more about how the social welfare system differ from that in Singapore. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome.
I want to have one other person introduce themselves. We have 6 student ambassadors, UNO students, who, without their help, we could not conduct this program the way we do. So the last introduction will be from one of our student ambassadors who is with us today.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning. I'm actually from Japan, so I'm an international student at UNO. I'm a sophomore, and then I'm majoring in communication, and I'm really interested in international communication to like make the bridge between the countries along the world. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you and welcome. We do have a couple of lights on. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you all for joining us. It's an honor to have you, and we welcome you to Omaha, Nebraska, in the United States, and hope you enjoy your visit here today. I look forward to having some maybe one-on-one conversations with you later about issues of mutual interest that we share. We hope that while you're here, you get a sense of how we govern here in the United States. This is a democratic republic and the oldest one of its kind on earth, but a fairly young country compared to many of the nations that you come from in Southeast Asia. And so there are similarities and differences I'm sure that you will see, but we welcome the visitors from everywhere. The United States prides itself on being an open, multicultural society where we are all from someplace else, most of us anyhow. And so we revel in our diversity and celebrate the fact that the diversity makes us strong. And so thank you again for coming. I look forward to discussing more issues with you. We're always glad to welcome the future leaders of Southeast Asia. Thanks for being here.
Commissioner Boyle?
Yeah, I want to say similar things. I want to thank you all for coming. It's always mind-blowing, and it's incredible the things that you accomplish at such young ages. When I hear you all speak, the things you're interested in are very similar to the things we're interested in. So things like health and wellness, education, taking care of the underprivileged, youth empowerment, gender equity, giving women a voice, civic engagement, inclusion. And I think what you're all trying to do is just to take it down to a basic level. Government can be very big and very scary to a lot of people, but you're taking it back to your communities and really trying to make one person's life better. And I think that's probably the most important thing that any one of us can do. So you're just trying to help people live good lives. And if you keep that at the forefront, I think your mission is clear, your goals are good, and if you do that with integrity and honesty, this world is going to be a better place. So I'm just so happy that you are our future, and you're going to be the ones to make the world a better place. We're depending on you, so we appreciate you, and we're looking forward to you being the leaders of the future to make this world a better place for everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
And again, on behalf of the board, thank you so much. And again, so impressive. I mean, really. And Commissioner Boyle really said it. I mean, the issues that you came up and talked about that either got you into the line of work that you're doing or that you've encountered at some time in your personal life are issues that we deal with. So as they say, we really all are one, and together we can make a difference in the world. And so again, I wish you the best of luck on your endeavors and welcome you to Douglas County, Nebraska. So thank you. With that, we will continue with our Douglas County Board of Commissioners meeting, and we'll move to item A, approval of the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held Tuesday, April 4th, 2023, and approval of the claims submitted for payment processed through Tuesday, April 18th, 2023. Is there a motion to approve A and B? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Any questions or comments? Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0.
Next is the consent agenda, items A through P. Is there a motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Friend. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Yes, I just have a couple of questions for the record. On item A, a request for approval of new city-county GIS interlocal agreement covering 2023 to 2027. And I thought I saw our GIS director here earlier, but perhaps not. He's not here.
He wasn't.
Okay. I have a question on item B3, Global Public Safety / Jail Tracker to provide RFP jail management system for the Douglas County Youth Center in the amount of $302,606, of which $132,606 is from the special ARPA fund. A couple of things. What is the jail tracker? Maybe Ms. Havakati could.
It is a case management system for the Douglas County Youth Center. Currently, we do not have a electronic case management system. So this would provide that. We've spent over a year working with .com to develop exactly what is needed in order to meet the needs of our youth and also the community. And this is through an RFP process. This is the one that was selected through the RFP process.
And this is a vendor that will develop this case management?
They already have developed it, Commissioner. It is a product that is used in numerous detention facilities across the country. They will be implementing it here on our system for us to use.
And we're using in part a special ARPA fund allocation. And maybe, Joe, you can outline for us what is this special ARPA fund?
It's actually not ARPA money. It's a $100,000 federal award, LACT, which the federal government gave out to counties to give them a reimbursement or award if there was federal land within the county. So it was a one-time $100,000 award that came with some requirements for what it could be used for. And this particular case was a good qualifying case, so we just basically applied that $100,000 award to this project that the youth center was looking for funding. So we could use that money as opposed to the general fund money.
Okay. Item F is an approval of an interlocal agreement between the Douglas County Attorney's Office, the Department of Health and Human Services, and the backup documents refer to a payment from the state to us, it appears, in total to be $193,581 to pay the costs incurred by Douglas County for the termination of parental rights. And maybe our county attorney could elucidate on that, please.
I'll try. Teresa, York County Attorney's Office. So this is a contract we've had repeatedly over the years. Per statute, the Department of Health and Human Services can reimburse the county attorney's office for handling termination of TPR cases, termination of parental rights, and this is just this current version of that agreement.
Okay, so arising out of what type of litigation would these termination of parental rights cases come to us?
This would be in juvenile court, and so we do have a number of attorneys that handle those types of cases in juvenile court.
And we segregate the cost of specifically handling termination of parental rights in a larger juvenile court adjudication. We keep track of the termination costs separately?
I believe the answer is yes. I'm not intimately familiar with the accounting that we typically do for that, but we do comply with the agreement.
And finally, in H1, detoxification interlocal agreement between the University of Nebraska at Omaha, UNO Public Safety Department, and Douglas County to provide for civil procedure custody and detoxification services for those presented by the UNO law enforcement officers at the detox facility. I don't know if there's somebody that can address this, but it appears to be um, an appropriation for a very discrete population of UNO people who come into our detoxification center. Is that correct?
Time, but if you want to continue
Yeah, I
to
just was
go
trying to get
put
some.
your light back on
Sure.
real quick. Thanks. This was taken up yesterday at the Board of Trustees meeting, and you're right, it's a special agreement with UNO and students to go through our detox center rather than be taken to jail.
And there's no dollar amount on this, it's just a cooperative agreement.
Right.
Okay. The same with the next one under H2, affiliation agreement between the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska on behalf of the University of Nebraska at Omaha Grace Abbott School of Social Work and Douglas County on behalf of the Community Mental Health Center to provide a clinical site experience at CMHC for the UNO students. This seems to be, again, connected to the civil protective custody.
No, we have a lot of these agreements, and again, this was approved through the Board of Trustees yesterday for the Community Mental Health Center
Right.
for social workers to be able to do a rotation within our facility.
But the backup documents specifically refer to civil protective.
Well, they'll be there too, yeah.
Yeah. So is this connected then with the services that we provide at the detox center? Because we have civil protective custody.
Right.
Right. Thank you.
With that, no other questions on the consent agenda? Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next, we have two recognitions. The first being the retirement of Dennis Brown, who worked in our Douglas County Attorney's Office for 7 years. And I do not believe Dennis is here. So we do have a resolution for him, and we wish him the best on his retirement and thank him for his dedication to Douglas County and to the citizens of Douglas County. With that, is there a motion to approve? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Friend. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next is a resolution recognizing April 9th through the 15th as National Public Safety Telecommunications Week, Communicators Week, and we do have two employees from our 911 facility, and I looked back and we did the exact same thing last year where we didn't meet on the week of the recognition, and so here we are again this year doing the same thing, but we want to make sure that you all know how much you are appreciated and the work that you do for us in Douglas County and for the citizens of Douglas County. In my eyes, you truly are the first responders. You are the ones who get the ball rolling to send our law enforcement or fire or rescue to those in need. And so, in my book, you're very special people. And with that, I will read the resolution and then ask for you to introduce yourselves and tell us what you do for the center. Whereas emergencies can occur at any time of the day or night that may require police, fire, or emergency medical services, and whereas when an emergency occurs, the prompt response of police officers, firefighters, and paramedics is critical to the protection of life and preservation of property, and whereas the safety of our first responders is dependent upon the quality and accuracy of information obtained from citizens who telephone the 911 Emergency Communications Department, and whereas the week of April 9th through the 15th has been declared as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week with the intent to promote 911 awareness and to recognize the invaluable role that 911 operators and dispatchers have in the safety of our communities. And whereas the individuals staffing our 911 center are the first and most critical contact our citizens have when they're in an emergency situation. Whereas the Douglas County 911 Emergency Communications Department dispatches for 15 regional agencies and receives over 500,000 calls each year, 24 hours per day, 365 days per year. Whereas our dispatchers and operators have contributed substantially to the apprehension of criminals, suppression of fires, and treatment of patients, while continuing to exhibit compassion, understanding, and professionalism during their job performance. Now therefore be it resolved by this Board of County Commissioners, Douglas County, Nebraska, that this board hereby recognizes the week of April 9th through the 15th as National Public Safety Telecommunicators Week in honor of the men and women whose diligence and professionalism keep our community safe. Dated this 18th day of April 2023. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. And I'll turn it over for you to introduce yourself.
My name's Jamie and I'm a dispatcher at 911.
My name is Connie. I am also a dispatcher for police, fire, and medical here. I was born and raised in Omaha, graduated from Benson High School, also a UNO alumni. Spent a couple years in Denver doing 911 there, and just happy to be able to assist the community with everything that I am. I'm glad to be back home and helping where I come from. Love it here.
Well, neat. And are you from here too?
I grew up in Nebraska and then I moved to Iowa. And I went to Bellevue University and I currently live in Iowa.
Okay, well, very good. Well, again, Kathy and I need to coordinate better that we don't miss this. We have to do it the week before rather than the week after. But we do really, truly want you to know how much you are appreciated for the work that you do. We know it's very stressful, and we know especially the last couple of years, especially during the COVID, you hung in there and stayed in there, and we so appreciate everything that you do, not even just then, but on a daily basis for us and our community. So thank you very much.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
With that, citizen comments, anyone in the chamber wishing to speak to the board about an item not on the agenda? Bye-bye. Thank you guys so much for being with us. Good luck to you all.
Larry Storr, 5015 Lafayette Avenue, Omaha 68132. Today I'd like to present you a copy of the one edition of the Omaha Reader Magazine, February 2023, talking about the documenters. Which are a nationwide group of nonprofit alternative news sources, some of them set in this room. Also, in that particular issue, they talked about Omaha's social safety net facing gaps and problems as recession looms. In here, they talked about the ARPA funds, the COVID funds, the federal funds that are being rapidly used up, and what might happen to all of the nonprofits locally that depend on funds from philanthropists and from county boards, city councils. What may happen to these groups when those dollars dry up. So please read it and discuss amongst yourselves before you run off approving more dollars for this and that. I guess I gave him that. But the other thing, finally, and I won't take up much of your time, is the topic of rules. This is an American Legion magazine article on Robert's Rules of Order. Now, as I read your rules and your agenda discussion about those rules, you say parliamentary rules, but then later on you say Robert's rules may be used. May means you may or may not. It's entirely up to your discretion. But the latest edition of Robert's Rules of Order books is on parliamentary law. In your rules, you say you may use parliamentary law, but you don't call it Robert's Rules of Order. He did publish a widely renowned, worldly renowned book, specifically starting off for nonprofit organizations to run intelligent meetings. And there's probably used more than what you call parliamentary law. But this was what wrote the standard on parliamentary law, because it was based on English law, which we all know was very parliamentary. So perhaps you should reconsider what you make the difference between parliamentary law and your parliamentary law, or maybe not the same. And also I want to point out, I think earlier today you mentioned Robert's Rules of Order being on the far wall back there, and it is not. It's still over here, which would interrupt the meeting if somebody did go over to consult that book. That would disrupt the decor of the meeting, and I've been dismissed from this chamber a few times for very simply matters of rules of order that you considered or the city council considered as detritus to the decor of this room. So I wish you would move that so people could go look at it if they wanted to. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak to the board about an item not on the agenda? Seeing none, we will move to committees, the first being the finance, the budget report as presented, and monthly fee reports as presented. And then there is one ARPA funding item for approval of resolution authorizing the award of $100,000 to the Geshu Housing Inc., did I say it right? Gacy, to provide operating funds which will be used to provide affordable housing to low and moderate income families while providing housing stability and support services. This is being funded through Commissioner Kavanaugh's ARPA allocation. Is there a motion to approve? Motion by Commissioner Kavanaugh, second by Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh?
Thank you. I'm happy to put forward this proposal to provide funding for Jesu Housing, Inc., which for decades has served our community in the area of affordable housing for those who have a difficult time finding it, specifically very low and moderate income families, to give them housing stability and sustainability through support services. I believe the chairman of that board, Mr. Dan Doherty, is here today, and I invite him to come down and briefly give us an overview of the good work that Jesu House does. I'm familiar with this because it was founded by one of the educators from my alma mater, Creighton Prep, Brother Wilmot, years and years ago, and many of us prep grads have done work at Jesu House or in the neighborhood that it serves, and it's now, I believe, branching out to a new area over in the Shealytown area. And Dan, thanks for joining us here today. What can you tell us?
Well, Commissioner, thanks for having us, and thanks for the proposed funding. So Jesu's been in existence since 1994, and since that time has built...
Dan, I'm sorry, could you state your name for the record, please?
Dan Doherty, 319 South 94th Street. Jesu. So since 1994, we've built 85 homes. A little bit unique in the model that those homes are actually owned by the homeowners, which in our philosophy provides some equity, provides some generational wealth for that family. Pride of ownership is huge. The effect that it has around those homes is glaring. You can see it when you go into the neighborhoods where the homes are at. Primarily at this point, it's been in Clifton Hills. Currently, we have 5 locations in Clifton Hills that we're building homes today, 2 of them are built, 3 we're going to commence building. These funds will help with that. It's just been a great cause. We've got great supporters, and this fund will go, or this funding will go directly towards a home that will go to a family. Again, 85 homes since 1994. I think it's a good stat to know that of those 85, one of those homes have sold to a second owner. The rest of them are all the original owners. So it really established roots. It makes the neighborhood better, and it accomplishes so much, not only for that family, but for the community.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan, and I'm glad to see your lovely young daughter Davis joining us here today. Fortunately, she takes after her mother, and we welcome you, Davis, to the Douglas County Board. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you for being here. With that, there is a motion and a second. Please vote.
Motion passes 7-0.
Next is the Human Resources, the weekly personnel report from Civil Service as presented, and then your legislative report is in the packet. Just to note that the legislature is basically packaging lots of legislation together now. So for instance, the Revenue Committee put together committee amendments with 21 legislative bills included in it. So that's how they're operating as they move forward, but we will continue to watch those bills that we had an interest in or took a position on to see where they end up. If you have any questions or comments on the legislation, let me know. With that, we do have need for an executive session, and so I am going to have us go into that executive session before we do Board of Corrections. And it's for contract litigation and litigation, contract negotiations and litigation.
And we're adding personnel and legal
personnel.
advice.
Personnel.
And legal advice.
Legal advice. Okay. Is there a motion?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Morgan. Please vote.
Motion passes 6-0. is,
Correct. Motion by Commissioner Morgan, seconded by Commissioner Boyle. Please vote.
and Commissioners, the system went down, so I'm going to have to do a voice vote here. Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend is absent. Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Chair, Chair Rogers says, I assume Mary Ann's gone. Commissioner Borgeson's.
She's
Okay.
taking care of something.
Okay. Commissioner Rogers.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay, we'll now call to order the Douglas County Board of Corrections meeting. Roll call.
Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend is absent. Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan.
Present.
Commissioner Rogers.
Here.
And Commissioner Borgeson is just away for the moment.
Item 1 is approval of the minutes.
Recording in progress.
Item 1 is approval of the minutes of the Board of Corrections meeting held Tuesday, March 14th, 2023. What's the will of the board? Motion by Commissioner Boyle, second by Commissioner Morgan. No questions. Roll call.
Commissioner Boyle. Commissioner Kavanaugh. Commissioner Friend is absent. Commissioner Borgeson is absent. Commissioner Garcia. Commissioner Morgan.
Yes.
Commissioner Rogers.
Yes.
Motion passes 5-0.
Item 2 is citizens' comments. This is an opportunity for anyone to comment on Board of Corrections related items not officially listed on the agenda. Are there any citizens' comments at this time? Seeing none, we'll go to item 3 and the report of the director.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good morning.
Michael Myers, Director of Corrections for Douglas County. You have before you my report for the month of March 2023. Jumping right in, the enclosure number 1, administrative services, that should be the 9th month of the fiscal year. We are $3,318,000 under budget. We have renovation and safety projects that are expected to reduce that surplus. These projects will extend into the upcoming fiscal year, and allocated funds will be encumbered to reduce the impact on our 2024 fiscal request. There was a significant amount, $1.4 million, was spent on overtime in March. That is up from the previous month. Please note that March also contained 3 pay periods, which drove that up 50% higher than it normally would have been. We are projecting a significant reduction in overtime costs by May, and for sure by the entirety of the month of June. As we near our staffing goals, and numerous officers will have completed their academy and field training. And our records department processed nearly $900,000 in bond payments in March. Enclosure number 2, community corrections and reentry services. House arrest admitted 63 individuals. The reentry assistance program admitted 19 and 1 achieved a GED. Work release admitted 44 individuals, and the Sanction Center and Transitional Discharge Center placed a total of 28 individuals in community corrections, saving the jail 125 bed days. Pretrial services, I feel like a bit of a broken record, but we are still working on full integration of the pretrial release case management system. We continue to press the vendor for completion of that, so we'll be able to give you much more detailed and robust data once that's complete. But there were 223 individuals who were placed on pretrial release during March. Overall, over the course of the month, there were 912 individuals supervised on pretrial release. 161 of those were supervised with GPS monitors, and 490 of those participated in the 24/7 sobriety program. Our law library utilization via our new inmate tablet system continues to increase, and as a result, we have been able to reduce the amount of resources dedicated to our traditional law library as a result. Our reentry services and therapeutic communities, there were 74 individuals admitted to therapeutic community housing units, and 4 individuals received a GED. Enclosure number 3, compliance. Our regular documentation is being completed for all compliance processes, and we are in the final year of our audit cycle. And our reaccreditation audits, actually you approved the contract with the American Correctional Association this morning, will be in probably the last week of October or the first week of November to audit our facility for reaccreditation. Enclosure number 4, personnel. 3 officers below the rank of sergeant left employment in March. 1 sergeant left employment. And Lieutenant Ernie Black, who will be here next week to be recognized, retired after a distinguished career at the Department of Corrections. 16 officers graduated from the academy on March 3rd. We had 33 officers begin a 6-week academy on February 27th, and 29 of them made it to graduation on April 7th. We had 46 officers begin academy training on April 10th. We did have 2 of those drop out within the first few days, and they are scheduled to graduate on May 26th. And as of March 31st, we were at 92.6% staffed for correctional officers. We will be and are now, depending on your definition of fully staffed. They are on board, but they're still in their academy. But we will be probably for the first time in 15 years. We will have full staffing and a full deployment of our officers once they're done with their academy training, and then we'll have field training the first 2 weeks of June, and that is when you should see the overtime expenditures go down drastically. I do want to acknowledge our training department after years of back-to-back academies, and our hiring committee for helping us achieve this pretty momentous achievement. And we will pause finally from continually hiring with the graduation of this class that just began last week, and we'll focus on training and retraining of our current and veteran staff for the balance of the summer, and probably will entertain doing another academy based upon our needs in late summer or early fall. And I also would be remiss if I didn't thank you, the Board of Commissioners, for your support of Douglas County Department of Corrections. We would not have been able to get to this point of achieving 100% staffing without your support. 5 officers were promoted from Correctional Officer 1 to Correctional Officer 2, and Justin Kolbeck was promoted from Sergeant to Lieutenant in March. Enclosure number 5, population. There were 1,442 admissions. That is a decent increase from the previous month of 304. There were 1,452 releases. We had a high count of 1,083 and a low count of 1,009. Our average daily population was a decrease of 25, and that was 1,049. Again, I think that speaks to our efforts for diversion and pretrial release enhancements, that despite having 300 more people come to jail, we were able to maintain the population and actually have it decrease a little bit. There were 78 custodial sanctioned bed days, a slight increase. The U.S. Marshal population decreased. The felony pretrial population decreased. The misdemeanor pretrial population decreased. Probation violations increased slightly. 64% of our population were minorities, no change from the previous month. 16% of our population were between the ages of 18 and 24. 14% of our population were female, that was a decrease of 2%. And 18% of our population were homeless or near homeless. Enclosure number 6, medical. We had 885 intake screenings, and there were 321 health and physical assessments completed. Inmates were sent out 28 times for emergent medical care. 10 of those were by 911, and there were 6 hospital admissions, which resulted in 16 combined days of hospitalization. There were 39 off-site specialty medical appointments, and 146 individuals were placed on drug and alcohol withdrawal protocols. COVID vaccine clinics continue to be offered regularly to the incarcerated population, and we have seen an increase in requests for vaccination since we began advertising them on the inmate tablet system. Enclosure number 7, mental health. There were 130 initial psychiatric assessments, 255 initial mental health assessments. There were 118 mental health infirmary placements, typically suicide precautions. There were 20, that's a huge number, 20 referrals to the Board of Mental Health, and 1 person was transferred to the Lincoln Regional Center. And nearly 41%, 40.87% precisely of our population was diagnosed with a mental illness. Enclosure number 8, security operations in the Honor Guard. Our crisis negotiation team, or CNT, there were 5 successful deployments that de-escalated dangerous situations without requiring physical force. Our CERT team, Correctional Emergency Response Team, there was 1 deployment for a cell extraction due to an immediate safety concern. The CERT team met 3 times during the month for training in cell extractions, restraints, and compliance training. Quarterly CERT training was completed focusing on riot response scenarios. The Honor Guard performed training with the local Metro Honor Guard and performed color guard services for our academy graduation. There were 6 searches of housing units conducted. The majority of the contraband that was recovered were items being modified to be used for tattooing. Other noteworthy items, we do continue our safety and renovation project. When concluded, all housing units with a top tier will have safety netting, and the installation of bunks is also underway, of safer bunks. And we hope to have a solution to do the bunks in the original portion of the jail, which was initially set to the side due to some architectural challenges, but we believe that we might be able to overcome that. Preparation for our role as the host agency for the American Jail Association conference, their national conference, continues. I think you should have all have received your registration materials and so forth, or emails from as we've registered all of the commissioners. It will be held May 20th through the 24th at the CHI Health Convention Center. A couple other things, and Amber Redmond was gracious enough to step in. I had to leave while I was literally in the middle of this report due to a family emergency last week. So there's a couple things I wanted to add that didn't get included. Lieutenant Andrew Dunning has been selected to take over our house arrest and our house, I really need to rename that program because our house arrest lieutenant does so much more than what they used to do. The 24/7 program operates out of that office. The massive increase in GPS utilization with our changes to pretrial, while pretrial staff are also assisting and monitoring that, it's really a cooperative effort. Lieutenant Dunning was selected from a group of very qualified candidates. I have full confidence in his ability to take over. He's off to a great start in that role, and he will do well in following in Lieutenant Black's footsteps. Also, one other item, Corrections Officer Week or Corrections Professionals Week is the first week of May, so I will be in touch regarding our schedule of activities for that week, should any of you wish to attend any of them. And I think we typically have the Honor Guard come present colors that week, and there's a resolution, so I'll touch base with the board chair on that as well. With that, I'm ready for your questions.
Any questions or comments for Mike? Just one real quick, Mike. What's the average length of time somebody's on pretrial?
You know, I just got asked that yesterday, and I had a difficult time answering that question. We will be able to give you that fully
With the new okay.
Because we have some issues with getting information from the courts. One of the things that we have to very affirmatively try to do is to find out when somebody's done with their court case if they're not in our custody. Because we don't want to continue to hold them accountable for their pretrial conditions if they're actually no longer have an active case. And that information we've developed, you know, through emails to have that come, but it's not automated for us. What I can tell you is that it typically takes, for a felony case that goes all the way through the process, you're looking at probably 6 months. I would believe that the average for everyone is less than that, because they are a lot of cases get resolved without going all the way through the process.
Okay. And then with that data, we'll have successful completion data.
All that stuff will be forthcoming.
Okay. All right. Thanks. All right. With that, when you can today, there is we do have child and youth after this board meeting, but there's also a tour scheduled, and so if we could just let Mike know who would be going over and what time, that would be helpful. And so with that, we have no need for executive session, and so do we have a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Rogers, second by Commissioner Friend. Please vote. Yeah, at 12:30 we're gonna start the child and youth. 9:03.
Motion passes 7-0. We're adjourned at noon.